Now, we give tax credits to movies. Why can't we give tax credits to kids? We have millions of dollars that's being funded to house and home people. Why can't we not keep the doors of education open? This tax credit scholarship has afforded many opportunities for my twin sons.
So that was Tracy Smith and her twin sons. We'll hear more from her, but they were on the Capitol grounds yesterday among scores of families from across the state that showed up to urge their legislators to extend the Illinois Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program. This program came about in 2017, and it was Illinois' only school choice program. Didn't use tax dollars for it. It used private donations to go into a fund to then have those dollars go to families to send their kids to a school of their choice. And something that the families might find the public school in their area isn't really doing their children service, so they want to put them into a private school of their choice. Maybe they want a school with religious backing. These are obviously questions of school choice, but December 31st is the deadline to actually extend the program, or families who are taking part in this as supporters of the program worry, and the term they use is the rug could be pulled out from underneath of them. So you've got that at play here at veto session. That's now 1 day in, 5 days left. Are they going to be able to get something together? The latest on this is House Democrats did file a measure to extend the sunset of the Invest in Kids program from December 31st, 2023 to 5 years out, but it would change some of the parameters of the program, including not a 75% Illinois income tax tax credit for those who donate their private dollars to the program. It would be tiered after a certain threshold, like $5,000 or so. So there's concerns that there's efforts to try to chip away at this, and those who don't support this are the public school unions, and they've been pretty adamant about pushing back against this program, claiming that it takes tax dollars away from public schools, but also a variety of other arguments saying that it's only benefiting white families predominantly, or that there's no true information about how the program is actually working, and as far as outcomes for the children that are taking part in the program to go to private school rather than public school. So those are some of the arguments against it from the public school teachers union. But again, you've got December 31st being the deadline there. And here we are, 1 day of fall veto session in, and a major issue that House Democrats focused on. They only moved one bill yesterday, and that was a measure to allow state house staffers to unionize. Here's House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch talking about that issue of allowing for state house staffers to unionize. That was a priority enough for that being the only measure that advanced on Tuesday, and really the only open discussions that were had yesterday in a House Executive Committee. Here is House Speaker Chris Welch.
The way this bill is written, there will be no bargaining over calendars and schedules and how the legislature would operate. And we have the no strike provision.
So that's just a little bit. They spent 2 hours in a committee talking about that. And that's just an encapsulation of really what the State House staffer unionization bill would do. I didn't tune into the entirety of that 2 hours, but I'm interested to hear the recognition that those who work in the public sector cannot be forced into a union. And that was a case out of Illinois. Janice v. AFSCME went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and determined that you can't force a public employee to join a union they don't agree with. So interesting to see if that's going to be part of this equation. That measure has to go through the House, pass the House floor, and also go to the Senate. They're going to be able to do that in the 5 remaining days they have left. It's an interesting question, but Republicans pushed back on that being the priority of Democrats in the House, and State Representative Ryan Spain yesterday saying that this is clearly something that only impacts a small amount of people when you've got other looming issues that are significant, like the Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program set to expire.
It's a bill on a very important topic, but its impact in terms of the number of people in the state of Illinois is very small. That's the only action that we have seen with a legislative committee so far leading up to an important veto session. The Rules Committee has been convened one time. The one bill that has been released was the Speaker's staff unionization proposal that we talked about this morning. So we're here to remind the Democratic leaders There is a lot of work left to be done in this veto session in front of the legislature.
State Representative Spain, again, laying out how invest in kids is very much an issue that needs to be dealt with. You have the question being raised to Democratic senators. State Senator Robert Martwick held a news conference yesterday talking about schools, but in particular, he wants to have what is soon to be a newly constituted elected Chicago school board. He wants to make sure that those who are elected get paid to be on the school board. Across the state, school board members do not get paid, but he's wanting them to be paid in Chicago, especially after 100 years or so of not having an elected school board in the city of Chicago. State Representative Martwick was able to get that done a couple of years ago. They're setting up the maps. They're getting ready to do that. And he was asked about, well, what about the school choice scholarship program, Invest in Kids? Here's State Representative Martwick.
It's not what this press conference is about, so obviously the discussions are ongoing for that, but we'll address that issue when and if it comes to a vote.
And we're expecting it to at least be part of some discussions moving forward. But again, this is just one element of many for fall veto session that they have to deal with. We've talked about the nuclear moratorium. That clearly is going to be dealt with. We are going to hear today a little bit about high transmission lines and rights of first refusal for Ameren and so on. But House Minority Leader Tony McCombie laid out a variety of other deadlines approaching that need to be focused on, and that January 1st being the deadline. And in particular, she talks about a measure requiring paid leave for employers throughout the state, private employers throughout the state. Here's State Representative McCombie.
Paid time off. Paid time off comes into effect January 1 of 2024. As it was written, there was many unintended, I would like to think, unintended consequences on that bill that we need to have addressed. And the sponsor of the bill said that there would be a trailer bill, so we need to have that over veto as well. There will be significant consequences for small businesses, not-for-profit organizations, and local governments across the board.
So clearly that's an issue Republicans want to make sure gets addressed. Will it be addressed before the end of fall veto session, which, again, those are the only days left this calendar year before January 1st comes around? You've got 2 more days this week, today and tomorrow, and then 3 days scheduled starting November 7th. So we'll be watching all of that closely. More from State Representative Ryan Spain about various priorities that he says needs to be focused on.
Since the last time we were here in May, we've had additional convictions in federal court as part of the Mike Madigan ComEd culture of corruption that has been dominated and led by Democrats in this state for decade after decade. And yet, have we had any hearing? We have a House committee. I serve as the ranking member of the Ethics and Elections Committee. We have had no hearings, considered no activities on the topic of ethics. We've talked about elections. We're doing nothing yet again on ethics. What is it going to take for the Democratic leaders in the state of Illinois to finally understand that the culture of corruption in place in our state needs to stop? Republicans stand here ready and willing to work together to deliver changes.
So again, just some of the issues Republicans are raising. They also said that they need to be mindful of possible tax increases. There was also, and we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, the question of the non-citizens in Illinois, migrants coming into the states, more than 18,000, and the financial pressures on state taxpayers, which is starting to mount to more than $500 million just in housing costs, let alone the $300 million over budget of $550 million. So you're talking 80 some odd million dollars that the state's projected to spend on non-citizen healthcare subsidies. So that's another issue. Governor J.B. Pritzker being asked about a variety of things yesterday at an unrelated news conference. He also talked about the Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program. Here he is.
Well, again, members of the General Assembly have been considering this for a few years now. I think it is going to reach some culmination either in the veto session or in the coming spring session, and I look forward to hearing what the General Assembly would like to do.
So what would they like to do?
Yes.
Obviously, you had a bill filed, but the governor making the statement last week that he will sign an extension if he gets to his desk. It's up to the legislature to make that happen. You had teachers union officials criticize the governor, lumping him in with Republican governors pushing for school choice programs, and the governor reacted to that yesterday.
Well, and retracted that, I must say. But I hear you. Look, I think people react in the moment. As you, I think, know, I am nothing like those two other governors. But, you know, people react in the moment as they do, and I forgive. But the truth is that this is something that's going to, go through the General Assembly. All I was pointing out was that the General Assembly needs to act first.
And he did say that he would sign an extension, so we'll see what happens there. But the cost and the impact and how it's really affecting families. Again, Tracy Smith, one of dozens of families that showed up yesterday at the Capitol. I imagine more families are going to be at the Capitol today as well, and probably throughout all of veto session until the Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program is re-upped and extended. Tracy Smith, I chatted with her and her two sons about how the program's impacted them and the need that they say is to extend it.
What brings us to Springfield has brought us since 2019 to save our scholarship. Scholarship is very important to our children from K through 12 who get a faith-based education. Education is not a one-size-fits-all. We should have choices of what we do. There's been a lot of myths that has gone out concerning the tax credit scholarship, and to be honest, 75% of what people donate, it's not coming from state funds or anything else. They get a tax credit back on their Illinois tax returns. Now, we give tax credits to movies. Why can't we give tax credits to kids? We have millions of dollars that's being funded to house and home people. Why can't we not keep the doors of education open? This tax credit scholarship has afforded many opportunities for my twin sons that are standing to my left and my right. Christopher and Alexander, who were just recently inducted into the National Honor Society. They're been recipients, and I will let them speak for themselves.
All right, so yeah, I guess how long have you guys been part of the program? And tell me your names before you talk about how it's benefited you guys.
My name is Christopher Smith, Kristopher Smith, and I am a junior at Marist High School. We have been a part of the tax credit scholarship since 6th grade, 5th grade, and we've been coming down to Springfield for many years to come and advocate with our legislators about keeping the scholarship extended. It's been impactful for my brother and I because we're involved in the Boy Scouts of America. We're currently Life Scouts going for our Eagle Scout rank. We're involved in the Push Oratorical program. We're involved with our church's parish council and the altar service ministry. And not to mention, as just mentioned, we're inducted into the National Honor Society.
Hello, my name is Alexander Smith, Alexander Smith. This tax credit scholarship has been impactful because since 6th grade, my brother and I were able to do tap dance, jazz band, where we learned how to play the flute, which carried on into Marist High School, which we actually played in the band for 2 years. We went to Ireland, and we also got the chance to travel to Dubai. So currently I do fencing, and I'm about to join the chess club. My brother Christopher Smith did mock trial. So the scholarship has been really beneficial to our lives because it's opened the doors of just opportunity for my brother and I to really flourish in our abilities as young men.
Talk about, I guess, what your peers might be missing out on.
What they might be missing out on, well, also my children received a Daniel Murphy Scholarship, which is actually academic based. The difference with the tax credit scholarship is based on financial need. So everybody's not going to be an A+ student, but that doesn't mean that they don't do stellar results in our community. And this is what we need. The doors open to make sure everyone has choices in education. We need to choose kids and not politics.
So I've talked with a lot of families over the past year who are pushing to extend this program, and it's one after the other saying that they've been given opportunities with this program, the likes of none other. And it's something I think you're going to hear a lot more about in the remaining 5 days of fall legislative veto session at the Illinois Statehouse. So we'll be there on the ground and bring you the latest there. One thing I did want to touch on, and we'll have to revisit some of the other issues, like this issue from State Representative Noreen Hammond, who brought it up yesterday as a priority for Republicans.
Yesterday, we filed House Bill 4187 to repeal the Illinois Trust Act and end our status as a sanctuary state for undocumented immigrants. The Trust Act prohibits local law enforcement in Illinois from participating in immigration enforcement. Our legislation would allow law enforcement agencies to once again cooperate with the federal immigration authorities. The time has come to end Illinois' status as a sanctuary state.
And Hammond talked about the cost to taxpayers and the health care and the housing, but you've also got the impact on public schools, especially in Chicago. I asked State Representative Cam Buckner about that yesterday.
So I'll say this. I know that in the most recent data we've gotten, CPS's numbers are increasing for the first time in a while. We saw a dip for a long time, and many of us have tried to do the work to figure out how we maintain a steady CPS population and find a way to grow it, right? I think the issue of asylum seekers and migrants in the city of Chicago, these young people need somewhere to go to school, and we have welcoming schools across the city. As I said, my sister's a principal on the west side in Austin, and I know they've welcomed a number of new families into their school community as well. I do think, aside from the other kind of policy implications of what is happening with federal immigration policy and whatnot, we know that those numbers will probably continue to grow in Chicago. We've got to make sure that we have a safe haven for these young people to go to school in and to learn and to grow, right? And so I'm sure, I haven't had this conversation with CPS and CPS at Brass, but I'm sure that there is a plan on how to welcome them and what to do as numbers increase.
So again, just some of the sentiments there and how the migrant population is impacting areas outside of healthcare and housing, but also education. And speaking of the whole issue of children, it seemed that children really were a focus yesterday, not just in Springfield, but also up in Chicago. Governor J.B. Pritzker announced a new state agency to deal with child care services.
And even with all this progress over the last 4 years, it's clear that we're not yet organized at the state level to reach that goal. Our state-funded early childhood programs are operating separately in 3 different state agencies. For example, early childhood block grants are managed by ISB. Early intervention and home visiting are managed by DHS. And daycare licensing is managed by DCFS. That makes it so much harder for providers and parents to navigate our programs. Our Early Childhood Funding Commission got together and recommended that we consolidate early childhood programs into one state agency. And today, that's exactly what I'm proposing that we do.
So how's that going to play out? The governor addressed the timeline of it, but House Minority Leader Tony McCombie was asked about it yesterday.
So we're just going to shift the work away from other agencies and start another agency without changing any processes? Is that the intent? It's okay to shift away some of the work from the other agencies that maybe are bogged down, or it doesn't make sense for that piece for those other agencies, and you do combine it into one. But if you're just going to do it the same way, I don't know if it's necessarily going to overall fix the issues. But I'm certainly open to this idea, and like Leader Spain said, I mean, this has been something that they just argued about at JCAR, was that last week. It would have been nice. I mean, this didn't happen today. They probably knew about this last week at JCAR. It would have been nice to have a conversation with Senator Cunningham and Representative Spain on just these issues.
So how's this going to play out? The governor gave a little bit of an idea of a timeline and saying that there's some hearings that have to happen and things that have to work out, and it's not going to be during veto session.
No, this is going to take a little longer than just veto session. Don't worry. This is going to take longer than that. We're going to have hearings. What we want to make sure we're doing is doing this in a way that is not only make sure we're preserving but also improving services as they're delivered. That's number one. Number two, this is, as you know, when you have pieces of agencies that you'd like to bring together, we want to make sure that's done in a way that's, cost effective, and also in a way that will allow the agencies that will remain, right? I mean, if you take something out of one agency, that there won't be left, with a big hole in the middle. So you want to make sure that the agencies from which you're taking certain pieces and putting them together into an early childhood agency are still strong in their own right.
So again, the governor talking about how there's going to be hearings and getting this new state agency he's announcing for child care services to be set up. So that's just, listen, that's a small sample of what they did yesterday, not just in Springfield, but up in Chicago. Today is day 2 of fall veto session. We'll obviously be on the ground and watch what happens, but there's not even a House committee scheduled this morning. Are they going to announce them when they go into session midday? Then go in the afternoon and hold committee hearings. We'll see. But even in the Senate, they didn't really advance too much except for a few administrative agency appointments. So we saw that happen in the Senate. So a lot that's still to transpire. And we'll bring you the latest, of course, tomorrow morning here with Bishop on Air. Be sure to follow me anywhere, all right, on X, formerly known as Twitter. Like and subscribe here on YouTube to get the latest. Find me on Facebook, and you can follow along that way. We got the Council Roundup coming your way next.